Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And this episode, we're going to talk about what I changed to stop chasing constant reassurance. And this is going to be a great episode for you if you tend to think to yourself, okay, if I could just hear how much they like me or that they love me just one more time and I'll feel better. And hint, hint, you probably don't end up feeling better. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening. Or you might be experiencing like them telling you that things are good, like we're good, we're good. And they're emphasizing that with you and you are questioning it, but are we really good? I don't know. And whatever they're saying to you isn't landing. It's like not sticking to you. Or you also might be operating this place of you just don't want to be needy, right? Like you don't want to be that girl or that person, and being needy is just like a huge ick for you. You don't want to be that for that person. But at the same time, you cannot relax until you know things are okay, right? You got to ask them. You got to say the thing. So what I know is also really confusing if any of those are you might be telling yourself, I can handle this. I should be able to handle this. Like I know that I'm strong and I'm capable and I logically know that they're telling me this, but you are feeling like you're sitting on an anthill, right? And you're kind of getting eaten alive bit by bit. And I also feel like it's like you're like boiling alive inside. You just kind of all this anger or frustration or just like negativity is kind of boiling up inside you. And it feels like pressure. And I would absolutely say not only does it feel like pressure internally, but it feels like pressure in the relationship because you might want to enjoy the relationship. Your partner certainly wants to enjoy the relationship, but at the same time, you with all this checking of are we okay? Are we okay? And it makes you both feel not okay, right? So that's a really hard part, and we're going to dive into it today. And if you're new here, my name is Claire. I'm a relationship coach. I love helping high-achieving, high-performing people you're slaying it out there in your career. You are crushing it. You have the receipts to prove it, right? You have built a book of business, or you've got letters behind your name. You're an academic, or maybe you're an entrepreneur. And it doesn't really matter what you do out there because you might be crushing it out there, but on the inside, you're feeling crushed with anxiety that the other shoe is going to drop. They're just going to stop liking you for no reason. And you're literally just any whiff of something being wrong, it sends you down a dark, dark place. So if any of those are you're in the right spot. I can't wait to dive into it more, and make sure to stick around because I'm going to share the exact thing that I started doing to stop that reassurance loop, like kind of needing it all the time. And it's probably the opposite of what you think. Okay. Also, quick little whoop whoop shout out to my one-on-one client. We'll call her S. She has been in a rough relationship previously. She had a breakup while we were working together, like really started hesitantly dating. She's got a full life. She's doing super, successful, doing all the things. She met a great guy in this turmoil of dating who, honestly, it was so funny. She was kind of getting the ick because he was communicating with her like almost in a way too much. Like literally all the things that she had listed out she wanted, he was doing. So interesting if you find yourself doing the same thing. He's super available for her. Like they're doing cute little things like a homemade pizza night. And what was so interesting is that before, she really was working so hard in the relationship. I mean, like over functioning to the max. And even though she was working really hard, it still wasn't working out. And now she is like literally getting flowers. He's like doing yard work for her, just coming over her house. It's like, it's been such a 180, and it's so much of how she's shown up to navigate the ups and downs of the healing journey from going from anxious to secure, and just super proud of her because she's fully able to receive this awesome partner, and it's really awesome to watch. So stinking proud of you. All right. So something that was occurring to me around this topic that happened for me recently was I had a interesting experience where I don't know, I think I was feeling a little strange because I started communicating with my dad a little bit. And it kind of was running my battery down. So it's like if you have your phone and you have like 1,000 apps open, like this particular app, this side conversation with my dad was taking up a lot of energy. And I kind of felt myself going to him, Craig, and kind of I didn't realize, I didn't connect the dots that this was draining so much of my own energy and my own kind of brain space. And I started noticing that I was like focusing on Craig a little bit more. And when I got it in my awareness and my field to respond differently, and that's usually the key. Most people do the same thing again and again. They just kind of are in this loop of maybe thinking that their partner is the problem. I used to do that a lot. And when I started to respond differently in that moment, it just changed our whole dynamic. Even in that day, I kind of noticed I was kind of picking things apart and like, and I realized, I needed to respond differently. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. Around how responding differently really changes that urge to get reassurance. So that was happening for me, and I thought it was like a great topic for this podcast, and let's get into it. So the loop, I know that is probably happening, and I'm a big part of what I teach, and also kind of like my secret skill, especially I think I'm a little neurospicy, is just to see patterns. And that dynamic where the more you ask, the less it lands, right? So the more you ask, are we okay? Are we good? Do you like me? Do you love me? It's kind of like, it's like a drug, honestly. Like the more you do whatever, like cocaine, I guess, like that baseline, you can never be at that baseline again. You need more and more and more. And the more that you ask for that reassurance, the less it actually lands. Or you just start questioning, did they mean it? Right? So it's like either it's not working the same way that it did, or it's like, there's something, they're just telling me that because, fill in the blank. And internally, deep down that you don't want to be constantly pinging them or, I'll just say being needy, right? God forbid that we are having something coming up for us, and your actions, right? So you might be, that you don't want to do those things, and at the same time, you are acting and doing things that are not aligned to that. Like a lot of times I hear it feels like you're being a different person, and you are, quite honestly. So the problem with getting that constant reassurance and that desire to chase is that it definitely is like a short-term fix. I mean, very, very momentary. The problem is that it causes long-term pain. Not that different than a hard drug, right? Very short-term, do you feel good? I don't know how long drugs last, but 12 hours, 24 hours? And then it's like long-term, your liver, your bodily systems, right? Like there's long-term pain with that. And you need it again. You need to get your reassurance fix. And a lot of times faster, right? You will need it faster than before. And so that's kind of one piece. The second piece is that if you're not already there, meaning if you aren't already doubting the reassurance, let's say you get it, you're going to analyze the heck out of it, right? So they're telling it to you, they're saying all the great things, but if you are in that place where maybe it's just not landing, or it's not as potent as it used to be, or you're doubting it, right? You're like, you're just saying that because you're my partner. Like, right? I just kind of giggle at that because I used to say that too. So the first piece is that it might be a fix, but it's very short term, and there's a long-term pain with that. The second piece is that it is definitely not only are you getting it, but you're analyzing it to putting it under a microscope, right? And then the other piece here is that you tend to override yourself, meaning that habit of getting them externally, like of seeking them and like making them be the thing that makes you feel better, that desire overrides your own internal way of regulating, right? So you override yourself, you basically break your own trust and ask anyway, right? So when you break trust inside yourself, PS, right? So essentially when you just kind of default to doing the drug, right? Let's say you're my drug, or they're your drug. It's kind of like, yeah, you are disappointing yourself. I used to love this show called Intervention, still love it, but it is such a huge, they feel so defeated. It feels so defeating because they said that they're not going to do it again. They made promises to friends and family that they're not going to do alcohol or whatever, and they end up doing it again. And it's not that different with anxious attachment, where you are breaking this internal trust inside yourself. And by doing that, you actually reinforce the quote unquote addiction to their reassurance to get your fix. I'm going to say that again because this is really kind of a key piece. When you are chasing that constant reassurance and you break that trust inside yourself, you reinforce the addiction to that reassurance to get your fix, okay? And the more you get reassured, this is the hard part, okay? The more you get reassured, the less your brain believes without it, right? So the more reassurance you get, the more you get reassured, the less your brains believes it can function without it. It's literally like a cycle of addiction. And so I use like a drug addiction. It's also like food addiction. Have you ever told yourself like, I'm never going to eat sugar again. I'm going to totally have no sugar ever again. And what do? What does that actually create? I have a client right now who is a dietitian, nutritionist, and she like, oh man, this is like an analogy I use with her all the time. It's so mind blowing because that same promise that you're making to never have sugar again, and I'm only going to eat X amount of calories, like it literally reinforces the bad behavior, right? The maladaptive behavior. And so when we are communicating things, whether we know it or not, we are communicating things non-verbally all the time in our relationship. So when we think something like, I don't want to be needy, we might even say it. We might even say to the partner, like, I don't want to be needy with you. Like I can do things on my own and I'm good. But when we act differently, right? We're thinking it internally. We might even be saying it, but then we act differently, even non-verbally or unconsciously. It actually communicates the opposite to our partner and to ourselves, right? And this is why I firmly believe that there's a huge difference between performing healing. Wow, words. There's a difference between performing healing. So saying that you're not going to be needy or saying that I'm good, I'm cool, and then acting differently, that's performative versus practicing it, right? That's a big thing in my community with my one-on-one clients. It is actually getting the tools to literally practice it. And the harder that you work at this, ironically, the less room there is for them to choose you, right? So if you are constantly chasing and trying to get that reassurance, and it's hard work, right? Like it takes a lot of brain space, then there is actually less room and less ability and space for them to actually choose you. Now, I know this for sure. When you learn how to reassure yourself, when you stop relying on them for that reassurance, you start relating to them. We go from relying on them to actually relating to them better, okay? You start becoming partners instead of somebody relieving the pressure inside you. They're a pressure valve if you're relying on them to reassure you. And I don't know about you, but I want a partner. I don't want somebody that's like an object to me, that's a pressure valve, like to relieve this internal pressure inside me. So you become partners instead of them just being a way for you to feel better about yourself. And this is how, for example, how she was able to manage that internal pressure valve of like, oh my gosh, do they like me? Da, 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 and feeling real partnership with this new person. So that's really exciting. And here's a little piece here that I noticed was coming up inside my community. And it really was a question around, well, how come I feel like I have to work so hard in the relationship? Like, why can't they just do more or meet me, where I'm at, da, 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 da. And what I was realizing as somebody asked that question, there was this piece around, well, what would it look like to relax? And when I kind of pose that in a different way, because a lot of times it's like there's so much focus on how hard you have to work. And the reality is the undercover thing that's happening is you're so scared of whatever is going to happen that, and maybe your default is to work harder. And it hasn't even occurred to you, well, what would it look like if I could just actually relax? And when you start operating from a place of, okay, what would it look like to be in a space where I felt totally safe? That's where things start to change. Because when we're so consumed about the worry and the fear, naturally you're going to act fearful, right? You're going to experience fear in the relationship. Now, I'm not saying like ignore things and again, like show me the evidence of whatever's happening that you're making up. But a lot of times it's not even on our scope of like what it would be like to feel relaxed and to feel safe, because feeling scared might just be something that you're used to, quite honestly. And what I think is really interesting is that it can almost feel like an addiction, like people who are daredevils and like Red Bull artists and they just like want to jump off of buildings, like adrenaline, and that the physiology is actually, it's like a drug. Like feeling that anxiety is addictive. So instead of like, how do I not feel so scared? It's like, okay, well, what would it feel like to be relaxed? And to me, that is a very multi-layered, multifaceted piece, which is why we're diving more into that inside the community. So I'm thinking of you. You get to and deserve to feel more relaxed and more at ease in your relationship. And a lot of people I just know stay in that place of staying scared and needing that constant reassurance longer than they actually want to and they expect. And the great news is that to do the same thing again and again and expect a different result, it's the definition of insanity. So maybe do something different. And I don't know, you can look at some links down below, and I'm thinking of you. Send me a DM if you want. And I love you. Mwah.